everybody. Welcome to Creative University. I'm Chairman Peter Chotty, and this is the kickoff inaugural Creative University session for 2021, a year that has a kind of a rough beginning, but let's stay optimistic. Music helps us keep optimistic, and that's the theme for today. Today's guest will be Perry Bashkoff, who's the head of Instagram Music, and Perry's great. How are you doing, Perry?
How are you, dude? Good to see you.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. How are things going so far?
I think as good as can be, all things considered. We're what, 12 days in to a year, but it feels like maybe 5 months to 6 months. Yeah. But I can't complain. Family is healthy. I am healthy. Everyone is safe. And hopefully everyone is doing the same. But yeah, no, we're good. We're good here. Just looking forward to a new year and hopefully getting out of this craziness that is life right now, and maybe either back to or hopefully to a new normal. I don't know if we want to go back. Let's go forward and
go back. But we're going to talk about forward-thinking things and how music is the same. Where do I find you today? Where are you?
I am in New Jersey. I am based out of our New York offices here in the city. I live in New Jersey, where I have been literally working out of this room for close to a year now. I went and I locked down a little earlier than most. So Grammys was my last trip last year. So coming up on almost 1 year exactly of work from home, which I used to do from time to time, but this kind of forced office close thing. So I'm here in New Jersey, East Coast.
I tell you, it's amazing. Last time you traveled was really the Grammys, which is like a lifetime ago. It's crazy. So for everybody, Perry, as I told you, the Creative University is about the students, and it's mostly college and graduate students who are out there, and we have a lot of them. We make these sessions available not only live stream, but also at the Creative University YouTube channel and on podcast. But you know, it reaches a lot of people who are feeling the same thing you are. They're remote. I know I feel it with my own kids here who are taking, she was taking college, my daughter, going to USC, but doing it from her room here in San Diego. So it's just like for everybody out there, it's a crazy time, but we're going to get into that and what you can do during these times. And Perry will definitely have some ideas about that. But first, let me give you a little background of Perry's background just to lay the context. I just met Perry very recently, reached out to him because I was very curious to hear what was going on at Instagram when it comes to music, because Instagram is such a part of everybody's lives, obviously. And Perry was great from moment one. And I told him about Creative University, and he jumped on the opportunity to have this conversation. And it mattered to him to, lay his story out and give some hope or inspiration or thoughts to all of you out there. So Perry, I thank you for being part of this. So Perry is, as I said, Instagram's head of music, and we'll learn what that means, where he leads strategy and partnerships team that's responsible for creating first ever opportunities for artists, record labels, and users to best utilize the platform to enhance their storytelling and to engage with their artists and fans. And Anam, who I mentioned earlier, just found this article in Forbes, an interview with you that was just published, I think, yesterday, that talks about what Instagram's plans are for artists to monetize the platform. So really look forward to that, but congrats for being in Forbes. Anam sent the link, by the way, to everybody about the interview in the chat. But before going to Instagram, Perry spent 19 years at Warner Music Group. And as we all know, in this day and age, spending more than a few years, a couple of years any place, is a very rare thing. So 19 years is almost unheard of in this industry of media entertainment. So wow, that's pretty interesting. And he led the global digital account management team that was responsible for growth, execution of their digital businesses, really. So downloads, mobile ringtones, streaming subscriptions, digital ad sales, all of that. And among other things, he worked very closely and was the global lead for Spotify and YouTube. And many achievements, Perry. So 30 on Billboard magazines, and I'm sure everybody knows what Billboard is, but named one of the 30 under 30, which is a prestigious honor, and one of Billboard's digital power players of the last couple years. So everybody, like this guy, he makes it happen. This guy makes it happen. So Perry, first, before we break in, why did you choose the song More by the duo Lawrence?
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me here. And you are hired as a publicist. That was a great job. Lawrence. So why did I pick Lawrence? There's a bunch of reasons. One, I was a musician. I want to be a aspiring musician, went to college for music. I think these guys are super talented. Brother and sister duo, Gracie and Clyde, out of New York City. There's so many reasons why I pick, and I always try to highlight them because I'm always trying to help developing artists and whatnot. But I thought this one was extra special also. The song itself, yeah, it's a little bit motivational, hopefully reminding people that even though shit might be a little crazy right now, there is more, and don't give up and keep going and look forward. But these guys specifically for this conversation, hopefully everyone is aware of what So Far Sounds is, and maybe has attended one of these kind of like pop-up events, and you find out 48 hours beforehand. But anyway, long story short, one of my interns, this is when everyone got to go to shows and do kind of cool things. One of my interns who had interned for me had moved on, gotten a great gig. We decided we were going to grab dinner, and I'm normally not one that goes out at this point. That 30 under 30 thing was a long time ago. I got to take that off, but it's still there. But I don't stay out late. But she said, hey, you know what? I'm going to see this band at this So Far show. And it was literally, again, it's just these little pop-ups. So it was at this loft, and boom, I walk in, and this band just blew me away. And, you know, they were super young at the time, and this has got to be 6-7 years ago. And then I just kept following them. Well, Warner signed them for a second, then they bounced around. Well, when I got over here, you know, again, trying to find new opportunities for developing artists and whatnot. And I reached out to them and just said, hey, like, let's do some stuff. Let's create something. Like, I want to hear what your plans are. So they're very much a on the road band, and they're not on the road right now or for the foreseeable future. So they've embraced it. They have really jumped in, but I just think they're great people, brother and sister, super talented. And shout out to who was the guy who Kurt. I don't know if you Shazammed or if you guessed it or knew them, but shout out for calling out the name of the song. So I love them. I think they're great. You should check them out, and they're super fun. And hopefully, once we get back into a new world, everyone will take a chance to see them live, because it's quite a show.
I pride myself in being pretty deep in music, but you stumped me. I was not aware of them. So.
Listen, these are the kind of ones that hopefully, you know, like over the next year and 2 and 3, you know, Instagram will spend some more time in that world, right? Obviously, we're very, very well known for our public figures and the big names. The Ariana Grande's 200 million plus followers, Selena Gomez 200, you know, those kind of things. Those guys, there's a place for them, but how do we start opening up new opportunities? And I think that's a lot of what we focus on. So there's probably a dozen more, Peter, that I could send you that will stump you for sure, because I've been stumped many a times. And then of course my 16-year-old just keeps me honest with, you know, stuff that he knows about probably a month before the industry. And I just try to stay as cool as possible, because I'm getting farther and farther away from that cool factor.
Yes, believe me, I hear you. My 18-year-old and 21-year-old, they introduced me to new music.
No doubt.
So because you were talking about what Instagram can do, we're going to get into your career, but hot on the heels of your Forbes article, your Forbes interview, let's get into that first, and then we'll get into your role in your career. Yep. But you were talking about what Instagram can do or is doing with artists right now. And I would love to hear more about that, because, you know, when I saw that you were head of Instagram music, I didn't know exactly what Instagram is doing in music. And I asked my very savvy music kids too, because they're avid Instagram users, like obviously, and they weren't exactly clear either. So that would be helpful to know.
Totally. Yeah, look, it's a great question. It's one that I get asked a lot. Family, friends, colleagues, you know, what are you guys doing? You know, where can I stream music? Are you a streaming service? Whatever. So we're not. I mean, people use Instagram for what everyone knows they use Instagram for. It's sharing photos, sharing video, connecting, interacting with similar, like, passioned groups of people. And so what we did when I first came over, what our task was, and the team that I was part of was really unlocking the ability for people to use and express and enhance everything that they're doing with music. So music is not necessarily a product itself. It's a what I call a bolt on to all the other features and products and stories and surfaces, right? So our first product was this music sticker. So that's just over 2 years old, where now when you make a story, you have the ability to add music to it. So, you know, for folks that are looking at jobs in the marketplace, you know, I always, one of the jobs that I was always looking at was music supervisor, right? Which is the guy who gets to pick, you know, guy or girl who gets to pick the music for movies or the music for commercials or TV shows. And so, you know, I always think about the unlocking of music being the ability for users to essentially be the music supervisor for the stories that they're telling. So whether it's their dog or their kid or they're at a show or whatever it is, you now can pick the perfect song to complement that. So, so it was really about unlocking music so that artists, athletes, fashion, photographers, dancers, whatever, can enhance their experiences with music. So music stories was the first. We dabbled on a few.
Let me ask you. Let me stop you for a second on that. Please. So to enhance their, you know, what they're doing on Instagram with music. So how does that work? Because do you have a pre-cleared library, or how does it work?
Good question. So we have a dedicated licensing and business development team, global, that have literally gone out and done licenses with the industry, both on the master and the publishing side, to clear and make available, like you said, a pre-cleared, pre-licensed catalog of audio. Now, the nuance to ours is that we focus in on the non-commercial personal usage of the content. Yeah. Right. So we this is not for the Pepsis and the McDonald's and whatnot. There's other paths that they're well aware of, and they spend a lot of time and resource money teams and whatnot to license music for that type of stuff. This is for you and I. This is for you and I to go out and, you know, like I said, walking the dog. You know, you need, you know, Saturday in the park or whatever. I'm dating myself with songs, but like, you know, I need to get cooler with that. But you're right. We have a pre set catalog that you can go in, you can search, or, you know, various different moods and genres and different, you know, elements, moments, cultural moments throughout the year. So if you haven't done it, you go in, you create a story, whether it's a photo or a video, and then you tap on the sticker tab. And when you tap on the sticker tab, you're presented with everything from location to, you know, smiley faces, GIFs and whatnot. And then there's a music option. And that music option gives you the ability to go ahead and search through our catalog, millions and millions of tracks from around the world. And you add up to 15 seconds in Instagram of that song. You get to pick the piece of the song that's perfect. You can select the lyrics. You can do a bunch of different things to really customize that story. So no longer is it just a picture of your dog, right? And I used one today. You know, my dog is just smiling at me. So I took it. I put a Kirk Franklin smile sticker in there, and now it just takes a different meaning. And I always ask people, you know, and people say, well, why was this the first? I don't know. When was the last time you watched a movie or a TV show without music? Right. Exactly. And it enhances it. It just makes it better. I know I keep using that word, but and I got to find a better one, but that is exactly what the goal was. So that's how that works. And that's what our goal was. And so we started to see, you know, the uptick of the usage of music, the increase in usage of stories, because now the experience is just that much cooler, sexier, better, whatever term you want to use.
So let me ask you about a little bit deeper on that. And maybe this gets into some of the other things that you're already doing and where you're going. But are you using those stickers as a way to introduce emerging artists too?
Yeah. I think that the goal eventually is to get to a place where, and we've seen it in some of the other features, as you noted, right? Reels and others, which give you the ability to actually see what song is being played, go view, follow that artist on Instagram, etc. So again, there's been a bunch of different ways that we have integrated music so that people are able to discover the song, discover who's behind the song and the artist, go deeper with them, because they're probably going to connect with them not only on the music, but on other things as well, right? Yeah. And that, I think, is also the beauty of Instagram in general, is that, again, an artist might be a developing artist, up and coming artist, might have a whole audience of sneakerheads because they're a sneakerhead, and they're able to connect with that community, and that community falls in love with them because of that passion, and then the music follows. So I always say it's either music first or music plus. And you can lead with a song that you love, or you can lead with the fact that, oh, you're both from New York City. Oh, yes, I also have, you know, Air Force Ones, or I also am a vegan, right? There's so many different pieces that make up an artist. So the music is one of those pieces, but that's what we were trying, was unlocking that. And so then the evolution is, how do you get more artists to use that, share that, tag that, etc., so that people just become more aware of music? And we've seen some really unique uses of it. People are creating templates, right? You know, here's my top 10 songs for the week, for the month, of the year, and they're literally putting the music stickers in. We've seen people, you know, creating them, because there's, and again, I probably should have connected so that we could do some demos too, but you know, you can tap through, there's different, you can see the album artwork, you can see the lyrics. So there's a bunch of different experimental ways that we're looking to see how people are using music to enhance it. And then hopefully the goal is to connect it to the rest of the ecosystem, so that people are able to connect to their Spotify, connect to their Apple, to connect to wherever their streaming consumption is happening. And hopefully we help those artists kind of build on those platforms as well. Interesting.
So is that something, the stickers, the music stickers that are bolt-ons, is that something that really started last year? Or has it been in place for quite some time?
Yeah, so it would be 2018. Okay. Summer of 2018. Wow. Summer of 2018 is when we first launched it on IG. It then bled into Facebook, so it's available on both sides, Instagram and Facebook stories. And then we added lyrics, right? So you can scroll through, pick out the perfect lyric. You can actually put the lyric up on the story. So that was the first product. The first music product, first music execution within our licenses was to add the ability to add music to stories being the surface and the product. Yeah. And then music was added to it, right? So then we have ability for some music to be utilized in live. We have some other restrictions around that. We have music can now be utilized in feed posts, right? So we unlocked the ability for user-generated content, which would be anything you would post to feed, any story that you might upload or create, that music might be in the background incidentally. And then we added these additional product features. So unlocking user-generated content that can have music in it, and then the ability for people to add music in the product. Those are kind of the two sides of the coin that we were initially focused on, and now we just continue to evolve in services.
So you talked a little bit about how your users can use music and enhance. Is there a way for and this gets into your Forbes article, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, but your plan to help artists monetize the platform. So how does an artist, let's start with an emerging artist, actually, somebody who's not an Ariana Grande, how can they take advantage of Instagram and try to build an audience and then obviously make a living?
Yeah. Well, so two parts, right? Two parts there. One would be building audience and then monetizing the audience, right? Yeah. So building the audience is about being there often and being there authentically, right? So you think about the number of times that you open Instagram, right? Anyone following, maybe not you specifically, Peter, but anyone following.
I do too.
We do this at dinner often, multiple times a week. We'll take a look and say, okay, everyone pick up your phone. Who had the most opens this day, this week? Who spent the most time on Instagram? And you can see that stuff. But so you think about the amount of time that the average user, the teen audience, spends on Instagram. I mean, they're opening it, depending on the artist, depending on the user, anywhere from 30 to 100 times a day, right? And so when you think about that, every time they open it, as an artist, you kind of want to be there. You want to be there on one or more of the surfaces. So feed, stories, IGTV, live, reels, you want to be there. And so when you think about stories, it's those circles on the top. How do you make sure that you're showing up as often as possible? And then feed, there was a stat a little while ago, I don't know what it is today. Obviously, COVID changed everything, but people used to scroll the length of the Empire State Building on a daily basis. So how do you make sure your content is there so that you're showing up and people are connecting with you? And then content and authentic content and not always feeling like you're being sold. So I often just tell people, look, anyone who follows me knows I'm very my personal life, but that's what my Instagram feed has always been. It's been about my kids, it's been about my dog, it's been about whatever. Okay, well, that's what people want to see if they're following me as an artist. They want to see they're going to see the promo stuff everywhere else, right? They're going to walk in Times Square, they're going to see the promo stuff. They're going to see the promo stuff on the website, they're going to see the promo. But Instagram, it's almost like it's a one-to-one FaceTime, one-to-one follower. It's kind of like if you're following your friend, your cousin, your brother, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. So keep that content that way. And that's how you continue to start building those follower bases. And when people look at your analytics, and I encourage people to spend a ton of time with their analytics. People do not spend enough time in the early days with analytics. It will tell you what people want to see. And when you look at your stats and you look at your data and you see that when you posted yourself with a cat and it over-indexed, maybe you work a cat into your post a little bit more often. It seems silly, but the data will not lie, right? And so you separate the feelings from the data and you go for what you see. Once you have started building that following, yeah, we're starting to open up, a bunch of different opportunities for artists to create money, create revenue, both in a COVID and hopefully post-COVID world. So that Forbes article, we had a great conversation with Kathy, and we talked about shopping, commerce, merch, all those things that were very, well, everyone's very well versed if they're a touring artist and they're doing it every Friday, Saturday, and every other day. They have a merch table, they have a merch guy, they're selling merch, they're doing merch. That's all gone. And so we've now, started creating scalable solutions with certain partners that will enable artists of any size to go on and start selling direct to their fans. So either they can ship from there wherever they are, they can use one of these other partners and parties. So shopping is going to be a big thing for us in general this year. And you might have noticed actually right at the end of last year, we changed the user interface for the first time in, I want to say 5-10 years, even though we're 10 years old. So between 5 and 10 years, there's now a shopping tab right at the bottom of the interface, right next to the Reels tab. That's how important this is to us, not only for music, but shopping in general, but for musicians thinking about selling those t-shirts, selling vinyl, selling whatever, direct to fans. So that's one. And then we're experimenting with some of the other surfaces. Live, of course, is one that everyone has started taking of. And I saw some questions about live, but everyone's starting to lean into live. Everyone's trying to figure out how they start creating, new performances and whatnot, and then how do they monetize it? So we're experimenting with called badges. Badges is essentially a tipping function for artists. So we're experimenting a little bit with that. You'll see that the new year. And then look, we're looking at different business models, and I think the same way it took us 3 years to get to the point that we are now with licensing and creating the new model for adding music to the existing surfaces, we got to do the same thing with the industry for new monetization in and around everything else. So whether it's IGTV or feed, you'll see new stuff being experimented hopefully this year, so that we are able to create a regular revenue line for artists. In addition to the monetization thing, we're hoping to be able to really create some new value with some new opportunities for feature and editorial. That is a big TBD as we work through a bunch of different strategy stuff. Obviously, we had plans for that last year. COVID changed everything. I say that 100 times a day. But hopefully that will be other opportunities to help grow that audience so that you're able to be discovered, and then you can do with that fan base whatever it is that you're looking to do. Connect with them about food, connect with them about music, or collect money from them.
Yeah. Well, that's all very, very cool stuff. And it's, it goes along with one of the themes that we talk about over and over again for all the students who are out there, and some of whom are artists. Many of you are artists, but even if you're not, but understanding that everybody has to be an entrepreneur these days, really, and take advantage of all the opportunities to engage authentically, as you were saying, build an audience that way. And then you can do, and show, the more that you reveal about yourself, the closer your audience, of course, gets to you. And then it becomes, whether it's a small or large audience, they become passionate in supporting what you do because they want to be close to you and support that. And that's where the monetization comes in and earning a living that comes in. And so there's so many new kinds of experimental tools out there that you should just try. And Instagram, of course, was being such a massive platform, and what you're doing, Perry, you and your team, providing these new ways, it really makes sense to immerse everybody, including me. I want to immerse myself into it and learn more about what you guys are doing. But it's really interesting stuff. And especially now, as you said, because most artists have to tour to make money and they're not able to, and it's not coming back anytime soon, sadly. And so now more than ever, we need this sort of thing. By the way, I just want to, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one quick thing. I mean, what you just said, if the biggest of the big artists can do it, so can you. Like don't overthink it. Don't be scared about it. And we're here to help too. You know, we definitely have resources that can help guide you, and obviously whatever we can do to help artists figure it out. We're here, and we have sessions that we invite people to, and we're going to try to do some more for unsigned this year. But don't hesitate to challenge yourself to try it. Now's the time. Now's absolutely the time.
That's cool. So you're going to have some sessions that are open to the public.
Correct.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yep.
So Perry, where do you see things like in your long-term vision as the head of music, and then we'll get into your role? Where do you want Instagram to be in the music world in, you know, use 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a bunch of different paths we can take, of course. I mean, for me, I want to make sure that we are bridging that space of tech and music, which, as you know, and most, if you don't, they're very different worlds. They're very different worlds. And as someone who spent, you know, almost 20 years on the music side, the only company I'd ever worked for, started as an intern, literally only worked in music. Like, that bubble was blown up when I came into the tech space, especially working at a company like this that literally touches everything in culture. So I think from a music standpoint, you know, music makes it better. You kind of kicked it off that way. Music touches everything. So I think music here at Instagram, not only interacting with artists, making sure that we are helping them hit their goals, providing the tools, providing the opportunities, breaking artists, creating new opportunities and breaking songs and whatnot. That's at the basis. And I think we got to do, we have some work done there. We're going to get into that pole position again. I think the second thing is just, how does music continue to infiltrate into the other verticals and other opportunities? So there is a me of sports. There is someone who runs our fashion team, and someone who runs a memes team, and someone who runs a publishing team. You know, how do we make sure that the music questions, concerns, you know, dispelling myths and whatnot around music rights, what I can and can't do? How do we make sure that we're educating everyone so that, again, music is making everything better on the platform? So whether it's you know, a fashion designer who wants to create content, or whether it's a dancer, or whether it's a food critic, you know, does music enhance their experience? And do they know what they can do? Do they know what the tools are? How does it make it better? And do we ultimately help increase and make the experience on Instagram a little bit more joyful, a little bit more, you know, not as scary? Because again, like, no one's scared. People are only scared of music on the business side. People aren't scared of music on the consumer side, right? There's not one person on the planet that hates music. They may not like a specific genre, right? They may not like a specific artist, but there's not one person on the planet that hates music. There's people that just don't like sports. There's people that just don't care about fashion, right? Like, there is. But everyone loves music, and there's a flavor, there's a volume for someone. So I think making sure that on a global scale, music is part of everyone's everyday thoughts, of everyone's everyday action, so that, again, you know, a silent photo of my dog is cool. A photo of my dog with music is cooler. So I want everyone thinking at that basic level, you know?
Yeah, I know it's a massive opportunity for you guys, and a massive, like a new massive way for all of us who are music, everybody is a music fan, to enjoy. One of the things, another theme that you mentioned was that you come from the music world, and like tech was kind of new to you because you spent 19 years over there. Yeah. Everybody out there, just like this is a recurring theme in all the Creative University sessions. And I really urge you to check that. We have something like 20 sessions with leaders of the industry, like, you know, Perry. You should go to the Creative University YouTube channel, because you'll see them and they're great. But recurring themes are not only, it's critical for everybody to be entrepreneurial. When I say that, I really mean like experimentation, and don't worry about not knowing what it is, because the only way to learn is by trying. And so experimenting, there's so much out there. Reading up, by the way, kind of keeping abreast of things, but also understanding that even if you're on the media side or as an artist, it's critical to understand technology. And on the technology side, it's critical to understand content and media, because everything kind of blends together. And even if you don't go deep, it doesn't mean you have to understand engineering, but to understand various platforms that are out there that are enabling new ways to reach fans, new ways to experience, all of that it's really critical to understand that. And you can learn a lot of that through these creative university sessions by listening to experts like Perry, because we go music, we get into video, but we get into venture capital, we get into technology companies, we get a little perspective of that. But that's something that I urge you guys to do. So I want to save plenty of time for Q&A because there's lots of them, but I want to get into your role a little bit. So first, what do you do? And then I want to get into how you got from school and wherever you grew up. And just because that's going to be helpful for the students out there to understand your path, because it may not be the obvious path that some of you may think.
It's definitely not. Let me take the first one quick. So my team here, small team, mighty team, we work directly with artists and managers to hit their goals by providing tools, best practices, etc. So what do I mean by that? Hey, I'm a developing artist. I'm a new artist. I want to hit 100,000 followers by the end of the year. Right? It's a good goal. What am I going to do to get there? Let's give you some best practices to get there. Hey, I'm Billie Eilish. I have a new single coming out. How do I get it to a bazillion users? Okay, cool. That's a different conversation, obviously, right? I want to sell a t-shirt. I have a specific colorway that I want to drop just on Instagram exclusive to my how do I do that? So there's always goals. And so I always tell artists, managers, whomever, this is not a pitch process for us. This is a conversation. Tell me what you're trying to do. Hey, I really want to talk about my veganism. Great. Cool. Let us connect you with our food influencer team, and we're able to push you in that direction. So we work with and try to help the artists tell their stories, utilizing our services, so that's what we do on a day in, day out.
Let me ask you on that. So you obviously oversee your team, but so do you work directly with artists and managers as well as management?
Yeah, good question. So again, because we're a very small team, a lot of us have our hands deep in the weeds as well. So yes, I definitely interact with artists. I interact with managers. For the most part, my team is doing a lot of that day to day. I spend a ton of my time internal with the tech folks who are not from music, so that we try to translate certain things that are tech speak and certain things that are music speak. And then we try to find them in the middle, right? So when I was on the music side, like you noted before, I dealt with Spotify, I dealt with SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So I was on the music side trying to translate the tech speak to the music folks. Now on the flip side, it's translating the other way and vice versa, right?
And that's why it's so powerful if somebody can speak both worlds, because it's all one world.
One world. It's one world with different focus areas, different goals, and different, vernacular for sure. I mean, when I first got here, I was head spinning for sure, and I'll go backwards in a second. But we interact with artists, we interact with management companies. I interact with product teams here at Instagram, making sure that, and I see some of the questions around, searchability and reels and this type of thing. 100%. These are the conversations we're having with the product teams to say, hey, here's feedback from users, here's feedback from artists, here's what we're actually seeing people trying to do in the search tab and whatnot. So product team, how do we build this, right? Strategy editorial team, how do we leverage and get new opportunities to create things like an app music handle, right? How cool would that be if I had that and I was able to start highlighting and reposting, resharing, focusing, creating content for the music community, so we had our voice, right? That's something we're thinking about. At Instagram, how do we get them to highlight more artists, use more music, right? Biggest Instagram account in the world. They should be doing more music stuff. So we're doing a lot of internal dialogues, and that sits kind of like at my level and one of my deputies here. But for the most part, we're all kind of in and out of that kind of cross vertical, hey, I got to work with the sports team on Super Bowl because there's an artist playing halftime. And I got to deal with an external artist because there's a cool opportunity, or whoops, they posted something that's in violation of our terms of service, or someone's verification, or right. There's a bunch of different kind of holistic artist music things, but that's just kind of like a full service organization. But I of all of our team members, like I spend the most time probably internal, dealing with leadership and with other cross vertical teams to ensure strategically we're all just continuing focused in the right direction. Do we have the rights? Do we have the product support? Do we have the marketing? All those types of things, so that all the great stuff that the team is bringing to the table can actually be executed on a regular basis.
Okay.
Cool.
And before I get into like where you came from,
Come on.
since you mentioned your team, so let's say somebody is dying to get in
Yep.
to Instagram and loves music. Just what kind of things, whether it's Instagram or other, other companies, what would you be looking for in terms of a resume or in terms of skills or passion?
Yep. So, so in terms of if we were adding someone to the team, right, I'm definitely looking for someone who has real life experience in music, in social, understands the platforms, understands the competition and the whole ecosystem as well. It's not really competition, understands the other partners, because we all learn and we all play off of each other. And it's a very small world, right? We all know each other, people bounce in and around different companies. We've all worked at labels, music management, whatever. So someone who understands that kind of ecosystem. Who are the big players? Who are that? Is it Twitter? Is it TikTok? Is it Snap? Is it all of the above? Right? For us, what are they doing that we're not? How do we enhance our things? What are we doing that they're not? Right? And so understanding that, I think understanding kind of the music ecosystem is a key component to this. If you have contacts and you can jumpstart your relationships right out of the gate, that's great. What I will say is this: we definitely need to open up, and this is a focus that we're trying to do, is like open up some more opportunities for entry level. You know, a lot of the because it's still early music days here, a lot of the folks are kind of seasoned, or they're in their second, third careers, if you will. And so we don't have a ton. That's something that I'm focused on. Everyone's kind of focused on as we continue to evolve. You know, what are some new opportunities for people either coming right out of college, opening up some sort of farm club, internship program, et cetera. But
you'd have plenty of interns from Creative University who would be
absolutely,
interested,
man.
no doubt.
And look, as
at the right time.
Listen, as someone who started in this industry as an intern, there's a special place in my heart. And like you said, when you started talking about this, I love these conversations, because I think the conversations, the questions are real. You know, they're not fabricated in the business and whatever. Like these are the people that are going to be sitting in this seat in short order. And like I said, my 16-year-old is like, I wish I could just hire him as a consultant to just tell me what to look at, right, on a regular basis, because you guys know what's happening and you have your finger on the pulse. So I appreciate these questions that are popping in. I'm kind of interested, really eager to hit them. So let me give you a quick how I got here, right? So I'm originally from upstate New York. Was a jazz saxophone player who attempted to make that my thing. I was the guy. I was all state jazz sax chair one. I was that guy. And I went to University of Miami. And what you find quickly, as probably many folks found, is everyone that goes to these schools is all state jazz sax one. And so all of a sudden, you know, you're in this ecosystem of just like amazing players. And so either I had to like really shred and figure out that was going to be my thing, or I just loved music so much, like what was another path? And I think to your point before, like I didn't even think that there was all of these other paths to work in music, right? You were either a musician or an A&R or nothing. Like that was it, right? Like, and then I think those are just like some of these myths, like, oh, maybe I'll be a manager too. Like I managed my friend's band in college, cool. But like, then you start getting internships, you start learning about all the other opportunities. And so found my way into an internship after my first year at Miami with Warner Brothers Publications, who had an office in Hialeah, Florida.
How did you find, just let me stop you there. Yeah. So how did you find that internship?
Great
Your
question.
first internship.
So what is now called Music Biz was called NARM back then. And there was, I believe it was, I don't know what it's called now, Music Business Association, Student Association or something, of which I was like the editor of our newsletter. So a handful of us went to the NARM convention. It happened to be in Las Vegas, which was a plus as well. And we literally, I mean, this is when they had this massive trade floor, and you would walk around and every label, everyone had a booth. And boom, 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 I was just walking around with, 100 copies of your resume, handing it out to anyone who would listen. And I was expecting to have to come back to New York, or I was expecting to have to go to LA for an internship. Well, boom, I hit up with this guy who has an office in Florida. And, it's about 30 minutes north of where I was living at the time. And he said, yeah, hit me when you're back in Miami and we'll figure it out. follow up, chase him, make sure I knew everything about him, whatever. Went in for an interview, had the opportunity. It was a really small division at the time. And man, it was the best opportunity for me because while I wasn't doing ideally what I thought I wanted to do, Warner Brothers Publications, by the way, if anyone's played an instrument, you've probably from one of their like, how-to books or song music sheet books. That was their core business, was creating all those song books, tab, chord, etc. I was in the new media division, which was a division of two. And my first job was making instructional guitar videos and literally VHS. And then we moved to DVD. And so I got that whole like production side of things, which was kind of cool, but I was like making this like cheesy, no name local artists, like things. And I was like, but then it like kind of dawned on me like, oh wait, I can actually use this and like use it for a real thing. If I ever get it, hopefully one day, cool, that would be amazing. And I just had the opportunity to really put my feet in everything. And it didn't matter. I wasn't getting paid. There's no credit. It was just like, hell yeah, I want to be here. And thank God my boss at the time had told me, because I was like done with school. I didn't want to do school anymore. I just wanted to work. I was having so much fun and learning so much and saw the opportunity. My boss at the time said, listen, like, I don't know what your plans are, but like your parents will kill me if I don't tell you that you need to do school. So, at least get your bachelor's degree. And then if you show me that you're doing classes, I'll offer you a full-time job here at the end of the summer, but you got to show me that you're doing some sort of schooling. Right. And there was no way for me to do in-person school and work. So what I did was, this was right when online learning was happening, which is ironic that everyone is now doing that. But I literally went to a school that was in Fort Lauderdale. It's called Nova Southeastern University. No one's ever heard of it. And got my professional management degree or whatever the hell it was called at the time. And I got my bachelor's degree, but it allowed me to work, travel, and get my feet wet and make a little money. I think my first salary, by the way, was like $26,000. Right. And I was like, hell yeah, like 19 years old, I'm running with it. It's great. And it didn't matter because a few years later, I got that call. And the call was, hey, we want you to come work at Warner Distribution, which is WEA, and move to Atlanta. And we think that there's some really cool ideas here for you, blah, blah, blah. Well, I moved to Atlanta. As soon as I got to Atlanta, I tell you literally 10 days later, was right about the time that digital was happening. And I was one of the only folks who really was doing that stuff. And I was making download cards with Neurotic Media out of Atlanta, and I was doing all kinds of things. And they asked me to come to New York and work on the digital team. And from there, I had the opportunity to literally be part of every new product, surface, partner, whatever. So everyone says, how the hell did you stay at one company so long? Really, my job changed every few years because it did, like you said, downloads, ringtones, streaming, it changed every few years. And I had the opportunity to kind of run into it. And I think, again, entrepreneurial, I'll never forget the day that my boss walked in and he said, listen, like, we got to make a decision. There was 3 of us. And he said, I run a team. I need one person to be the iTunes account manager. And then there's this ringtone thing happening. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or like if you use it or whatever, but we don't know what the hell it's going to be, dude. But like, no one's done it. So you get to choose. I chose ringtones. I don't know why. I did. But Apple's really been like the only partner that I've never touched in my whole digital career. It's been kind of wild, but I became the ringtone guy. And that was like my rise through 30 under 30, mobile, all that was because I was like, let's figure it out. And then the next one, hey, Spotify thing's coming out of Sweden. Hey, can you help us figure out the stuff? Great. Became that. YouTube, ad supported, all this thing, social, Snapchat. Just take the chances. Take the chances. It keeps it real for you.
And by the way, and we could go on, and I want to get to the questions, but
yeah.
There's so many themes here that you touched upon that are critical for everybody to understand out there because you hear them over and over again with people who are sitting in the kinds of chairs that Perry is. And you don't have to sit in the kinds of chairs Perry is. You don't need to be the head of a division. You can be whatever you want to be, but the same themes apply, and I feel so strongly about it, guys, that first of all, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just don't, because even if you think you do, you don't. And that's why it's so important to get exposed to all these different diverse roles and diverse perspectives. And that's another reason, like what you're doing right now, just listening to this and listening to the other sessions, you'll get so much out of it. So that's one thing. Second, entrepreneurial. Perry, you just went out there. You didn't have a plan. You just did it. You took steps. And even in this time where we can't get outside really and interact that way, there are a lot of virtual ways to be able to interact. And it's so critical to experiment with that too. There are a lot of these kinds of sessions, by the way, that are free all over the place where you can interact and somehow get connected with somebody. There are ways to do that. But just getting yourself out there, and the more times you put yourself out there, the more opportunities that you have for some kind of connection to happen. And then once you have that connection and you have an opportunity, it may not feel like it's the perfect one for you. Like with Perry, he was thinking, oh, okay, it's not necessarily the greatest fit for what I thought, but I'll do it. And like Perry said, he did it. He didn't, like, the money wasn't as important as getting the opportunity. And I really urge you guys, I urge everybody out there that don't wait for the perfect opportunity. If you get a chance to grab something that is interesting, then take it, because if you establish a relationship, then the relationship is going to be the most likely way that you get to a path that gets to where you feel you want to be. It's like relationships are more important than headhunters out there.
100%.
And then finally, that the money thing, it's so important to think of it as an investment for your future. I know it's not easy. Maybe you have to bartend, maybe whatever, because everybody has to make enough money to live. But that's what being entrepreneurial is. You got to be scrappy that way if you really want to go for it. And it's not about getting the most money in your first gigs, or, you know, I would say anytime in your career. It's not about that. So there's so many themes there, guys, but Perry's
Peter, you hit it, man. My first internship, I totally forgot about this. My very first internship was during my first school year, was at Sony Latin. I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I went every day and they had me packing CDs and we did whatever. Like, I learned that piece fine. Well, P.S., here I am now 20 plus years later, working with the guy who hired me at that internship, who's Carol G's manager. And so it is a full circle. This music space could not be smaller. And I joked about it before that we all know everyone knows each other. So get inside the doors, or in this virtual world, get inside someone's DMs, get inside someone's inbox. Like, I always tell people, if you're going to follow me on IG and I'm going to like interact, like, tell me who you are. Right? Hey, Kurt, make sure you're the guy who, if you're going to follow me, make sure you're the guy who tells me you're the guy who selected Lawrence Moore, so that I can make that reminder. Back in the day, right? I used to write on the back of business cards. Oh, Peter, guy who wore loop hoodie. So I remember. That's what I remembered. Well, in this world, like, there's no faces right now. I see all these things, but like, make a reminder. Like, don't just, oh, I'm a new artist and I got new music, I'd love to send it to you. You know how many times a day I hear that? You know how many times a day I hear that? Something different, something authentic. And I think that's where, quite honestly, in a virtual world, possibilities are endless. You don't have to be in New York. You don't have to be in LA.
Let me give a quick example and then I'll get to the question, because I think it's so important to exactly what you just said. So there was a young woman who was on a session about 3 months ago. And she had an anonymous question to Sarah Harden, who's the CEO of Hello Sunshine, which is Reese Witherspoon's company. And it was a anonymous question, just like this, in a chat, saying that, you know, Sarah, I tried to get I've sent my resume over 100 companies in a year and a half, not a single response. What's the problem? Can you take a look at it? So she sent it to me, took a look at it, asked her to send a video of herself just to get a sense of her personality, whatever. And bing, bang, bong, she got an internship with DreamWorks Animation, because she was interested in animation. And she's on her second gig at DreamWorks now. In her second semester, they liked her so much, the first part one of the DreamWorks Animation internship, that she's doing it again. And so, like, that's how it happens, man. Exactly. There's a lot of serendipity to it, as long as you serendipitize and put yourself out there.
Well, listen, so I'm looking at the questions. Connie asked, what's something you think helped you to be noticed in your internship, but that made them offer you a full-time position? Look, I'll just be real straight. Like, if you are in an internship, do whatever. Do it. Don't let them abuse you. That there's a line. But do whatever. Hey, can you write this copy? Hey, can you pack this CD? Hey, can you do this thing? I always tell this story. I was working already, so I wasn't an intern, but I messed up. And Peter, I told you this story. I messed up a shipment of a guitar to my boss who was going to a sales call, right? Messed it up completely. Like it was probably one of the worst things that someone could do in their early career. I don't know why I wasn't fired, but whatever. If I tell you that so long as I had an office at Warner, I used to have my own little shipping thing because I gave that to someone to ship one time and it didn't get where it needed to be. I should have been responsible for it. So I learned from that and I said, okay, you know what? I don't care what my title is. I don't care what I've done or accolades or whatever. When I'm shipping something to make sure that I'm doing it. So if you're in an internship and someone asks you, can you do this? Unless you actually can't physically, whatever, can't do it for whatever reason, you have nothing to lose. Internships are the ability to make mistakes so that you can learn from them and then use them in real life. So I would say, what did I do? I literally did anything they asked. Production studio and hold the camera, great. Never did that before. This is before YouTube, by the way. You guys have such an opportunity to learn things. Watch a YouTube video before you go. If you're going to reach out to someone or you're going to intern for someone, know everything about them.
Yeah.
You know everything about your artists and your celebrities and whatnot. Hopefully you took 5 minutes to see who I was before you came to join this thing or who Peter was, because then you can make a connection with them. Someone wrote in here, my first internship was at Sony Latin 2. Great. We now are connected forever, Susan. Right? Like, I think those are the kind of things that people, and this is what I tell artists all the time, make that connection with people. It's not just your music, make that connection and songwriting will connect. So I think that would be, you know, what I think it was. I'd have to call them and see what it was, but like, I literally did anything they asked.
Yeah.
And maybe I was good at it. I don't know. It just kind of delivered, you know?
Yeah. Listen, I want to emphasize that for everybody out there, that an internship, if you're lucky enough to have an opportunity, because you put yourself out there, so you give yourself a better chance to get an opportunity. If you get an opportunity, take it, but then kick ass, like do anything, do everything, be enthusiastic. If you have a task, then get it done early, ask for more. You know, all of that kind of stuff. Do it right. Like focus, sweat the details in terms of doing it right.
Yeah.
And ultimately, authentically, establish a relationship, because the relationship, you know, you talked about coming full circle. That's so cool. And that's the way this happens all the time in the business.
all the time. I mean, not only does that happen, literally had a conversation with a friend this morning who, shame on me, it took us several months to get connected. I used to work with when I was a ringtone guy, and he was, well, now I'm trying up with a new gig with that I know he's going to be perfect for. Right. So your network, your connections are going to be your strongest piece to any industry, but I specifically in tech for sure, it helps. And then look, deliver on what you say you're going to do. Yeah. Deliver on what you say you're going to do. Like in real life, this is real life. So if you say you're going to do something, deliver. Wait, don't. And I'm a little Miyagi with this nonsense, but it's like, don't wait for the color, what do you call it? Color by numbers.
Yeah.
Book. Draw it out. Yeah. I used to use Mad Libs. No one knows what Mad Libs is. But like the color by numbers, like you do the picture. You do it. Don't wait for me to tell you what to do. Yeah, I'll give you some framework. Just because I told you this is how we do it doesn't mean that's how it has to be done. Take a project, do it the way I told you the first time, and then make it better, faster, quicker, whatever it is. Let me look at some of the other questions quick. Working in a pandemic between interns and there's pluses and minuses to it. I think everyone's experiencing that, but there's no stopping you connecting with people and having these conversations, having a DM conversation. People have a little bit more time. People, you don't have to be in New York. You don't have to grab someone's office and find a way to break into their office, right? Like, don't do that. But you can interact with people anywhere they are. And so do that. If you're going to hit me, and by the way, like I tell everyone, hit me on LinkedIn or hit me on Instagram, but don't just hit me. Like, give me a reason why. And it's not because you're the breaking artist. It's because like, hey, I joined your thing, great conversation, and I want to do. Great, cool. And I'll remember you. And I'll tell you, I did one of these, I want to say a few months back, and I got a little bit of both, right? You had the people who are like, hey, I was the one who was like in my car, but I wanted to, okay, cool. I remembered her. I remembered that she was in the Home Depot parking lot, and cool. And so we've just started like this back and forth of like, oh, cool, I saw this job. Do you think there's, make that connection and start interacting with people. And if you do make a connection with someone, don't let it lapse. don't check in with them just when you need something. Interact with them regularly. Keep them updated on what's going on, right? So I think, you know, the pandemic has provided opportunities and hurdles, but there's virtual internships all over the place. There's virtual opportunities everywhere. I think people are definitely a lot of people are looking for work because a lot of people are out of work. But here's an opportunity to kind of offer your services to help those in need while learning, so that hopefully when we come out of this thing in 6 to 12 months, you know, you have some more experience. Put your experience down, no matter what it is. I remember talking to someone who said, "Oh, I was like a road manager, or whatever, but it was really just kind of like a side project, so I didn't put it on." Put it on. Why not put it on? It's going to help you. Strategy for utilizing film soundtracks to help accounts. Like, yeah, you know, soundtracks is always a weird thing because there's licensing, very complicated licensing nuances around there. So I think we are definitely in conversations with all of the parties that represent a lot of the soundtracks. If they're specific for studios or Netflix type things, I don't know. I think really for the average user to utilize content, but we're looking at opportunities for businesses to jump in.
And by the way, Perry, let's have a couple more. I don't want to take too much of your time, but dude, get to a few more if you have the time. And
absolutely. So about the Facebook events being kind of like their go-to, 100%. I hear you. I've been asking about IG events for a second. I saw a beta test internally for a second. It is something that we're exploring, and we're always looking to see things pop up from time to time, or you might even see things and different text and whatnot moving around. That's as well how people are. So something, IG events, the ability to kind of invite on IG the same way that you can invite on Facebook. No way my artists can see where their music is being used on Instagram unless someone uses them. Yeah, so, twofold there. One, if you are through one of our licensed partners, TuneCore, DistroKid, etc., they should be able to provide you some of that information. So reach out to them, see what's up. On Reels, you actually can see the usage of your songs on these new song pages. So if you search there, like you noted, Adam, like a hashtag, or you search a specific artist or song, and you find yourself in the Reels experience and search, you actually tap into that scrolling song along the bottom. You come on the song page and you actually see all of the different Reels uses that are happening on the platform.
Here, let me ask you, because I don't know if you have your Q&A tab open, but
I see, yeah.
Okay, check out Simran's questions. There's a couple.
7-year-old singer-songwriter had a couple questions. A separate music account. Can you build your brand identity properly by having them as one? That's totally up to you. It's a great question. I think depending on what your goals are, that will ultimately determine what you want to do. A lot of artists like to have them individually so that they are able to have a personal life and a public life. You know, so really I would say there's no rhyme or reason to is one better than the other. Just use the best practices on both, especially the brand one where you're trying to build your how you be posting, power of Reels. So let me just talk about Reels quickly. Reels is our only and first unconnected experience on Instagram. So what does that mean? When you post to stories that are followers, the only way for that to get past your followers is for someone to share you've never consumed. You've probably scrolled through and you've said, who the people? I do not follow any of them. That is by design. We want you to discover new content. We want you to discover new people to follow and vice versa. So your content being created in Reels will be found and seen. What posting? Here's kind of like tell people, but it depends on the use case. Story, don't overdo it, right? I use this phrase, my kids, and we all know who that person is, right? They post too many stories and then the dots are like across the bottom. Don't do that. You do that, swipe across. Post stories every day. Some people, depending on who you are, they want to see from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. Feed 2 to 3 times a week. Videos always outperform photos. TV as needed. Live. Participate or set trends, right? So either set trends, and that's ad hoc as is.
By the way, we're having quite a bit of connectivity issues now, so it's kind of stuttering.
Oh no.
Yeah, a little bit. No, we were able to get. I was still able to get most of it, but we
Okay.
were stuttering a little bit. How about one last question?
Let me take a look here.
It's your pick.
Let me see. Let me look here. Yeah, no search function, Adam. We're working on that stuff. There was one here. Jazz Lincoln Center, 100%. We're gonna be we're working with them. Marcus on my team actually worked at Jazz Lincoln here. He's an amazing fiddler. He's owning that relationship. I think we hit.
You covered a lot of great ground.
Yeah. The other thing I'll everyone with, like, follow at Instagram, follow at creators. There's a lot of great stuff there. I'm hoping that we'll be able to tell you to follow at music sometime this year. But hit me up. I mean, let's have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation. You guys are definitely the ones that are challenging the future. But so hit me up and challenge yourself. Like let's some of these guys break out and become the next ones that I to work with, because you're blowing up on the surface. And we want to get you there.
Perry, that's great. Listen, man, I really appreciate the time. It's wonderful to hear all the kinds of things that you're doing over there. I love your enthusiasm and passion. And I also just like everything that you were talking about in terms of careers and how you get from here to there, like that resonates so much with me. And I really urge everybody to think about those and maybe rewatch this once we post the video itself, because it gives you hope. You don't have to have it all figured out, guys. And especially now, you may feel a little bit like desperate, which totally, there's so much angst everywhere. Completely get that. Just do what you can do. Take some steps, experiment with these things, play with the features that Perry was talking about, get to know them a little bit. And yes, reach out also to different people out there and
that's what I was going to say, Peter, like people IG handles in the chat. Like this is a perfect opportunity, but you guys are all looking to the industry. Get each other's IGs, interact with each other on IG, like create these little groups that are going to be the future. So I couldn't agree with everything you're saying more, man. This is the opportunity to really connect with people regardless of where you are. Now's the time. So
awesome. With that, guys, good to see you. Thanks a lot, Perry.
Thanks, dude.
Stay safe,
everybody. Later, bye.
See ya.